Hello, I'm Barry Tomalin, and here I am in front of the London Eye in the iconic London World Greatest Tourist Attraction for Cities and the City, Nation, Place Global Conference. With me is Robert Govers, author of a new book, Imaginative Communities. So, first of all, Robert, what is the IPBA and what's your role in it?
The IPBA is the International Place Branding Association, and it's a network of people involved in reputation management of places, many academics in many different disciplines, and also practitioners. I'm the chairman of the IPBA, so it's a non-profit association, international association. We have about 100 members, individuals.
Just tell me what you actually do as an association.
Internationally, so our members are from all over the world, and they're in various different disciplines. And bringing them together means an online platform. So we have networking opportunities online, but particularly our main activity is an annual conference, which is this year Macau. Last year was in Swansea, and the first edition, the inaugural conference of the International Place Branding Association, took place in London 2 years ago.
Now, what's really interesting about this book is you've called it Imaginative Communities. What is an imaginative community?
Because when we talk about places, as you yourself say, we immediately think of physical things very often. And I think, which is fine. And when you refer to tourism, again, that is fine because you're dealing with tourist attractions, so you're trying to sell a product to a potential target market, i.e. specific tourists that you're trying to attract. But when we're dealing with reputations of places, it's much more than that. And I think there the essence is the community. It's the community of people that share a sense of belonging and share a sense of purpose of where they come from, their history, their identity, and where they're going. I think only that, in the end, can, if you have this shared sense of local engagement and shared sense of purpose, you can start thinking about, okay, what are the things that we can do in order to enhance our reputation, which might be linked to tourism. It could be tourist attractions that might be that you could use as imaginative initiatives, but you have to come up with all kinds of actions, initiatives, investments, infrastructures, projects, events that reinforce that sense of purpose, that signal to the world that this is who we are, this is where we came from, this is where we want to go, and this is where we belong. And that's why I call it imaginative. So it's about the community, and it's about doing imaginative things. So it's not about copy-paste, basically, right? So it's not about hosting your next mega event the same way as everybody else does, because that's just another mega event. And next year people are not going to remember where last year's event took place. So you have to do things in an imaginative, original, captivating, innovative way.
You give lots of examples of imaginative communities. Which one for you is your favorite at the moment?
Okay, currently, and they're represented here at the City Nation Place Conference, are people from Estonia as an actual current initiative, a current example, where they have tried to position themselves as a high-tech Baltic state. So they're trying to create distance between all the other Baltic states and themselves, creating a unique profile for themselves. And they're doing that through setting up the E-State. So they are the first country, several years ago, to write into the constitution that internet access should be a human right. They're the first country to do that. They then have, several years ago, set up e-residency. Many people would have heard of that, where a non-resident can become an e-resident of the country. And because, of course, the whole state has been brought online. So all services are in the cloud, if you like. So anybody, anywhere in the world could basically use the banking services, the tax system, all the other government services that are hosted by government in Estonia, even if they don't reside in Estonia. Which also means that people from outside the European Union can actually start a legitimate European business through the e-residency program within Europe, even if they don't reside in Europe. So these are the type of imaginative initiatives. which build a consistent, it builds a consistent narrative of how the country wants to position itself, and it repeats these kinds of initiatives. The last thing that they've done last year is to launch the first data embassy. So obviously, with the whole state being online, they found that they running security risks. But as opposed to what everybody else does, is to hire big corporations to solve their tech security issues, they come up with the idea of data embassies. So they're using embassies in friendly countries to have data backups and system backups so that they can run their e-services from those embassies if things go wrong in Estonia itself. And the first one was, I think, launched at the Luxembourg embassy last year. So it's a consistent narrative of imaginative initiatives, doing things in a new way, in an interesting way, where people will say, hold on, something happening there. We should keep an eye on it.
It's really interesting because you put this, to some extent with Estonia, in the context of globalization. And you see that Estonia is a good example of the positive side of globalization. How do you see it working?
So, of course, globalization has often been seen, particularly, things happening in the world, Brexit and Trump, that seeing globalization as a bad thing. And of course, globalization has had its problems. Migration, internet security, the financial system. Obviously, we've seen several issues. But globalization also has its benefits and advantages and its opportunities. And this is what I try to write about in my book, Imaginative Communities, to look at how can communities use these processes to their benefit. So how can they, and of course, if globalization is just seen as homogenization, which many people do, they just think that the world is flat and it's all about McDonaldization and Disneyization. If that's all that globalization is, then yeah, sure, it's not necessarily a good thing. But it doesn't have to be. You can stand out, you can build your own community, you can build your own sense of direction and purpose, and use these processes to your advantage while maintaining your identity.
However, one of the problems we face is that a large part of the world sees globalization not as an advantage but as a threat. Is it possible that imaginative communities actually formed as a resistance to the process of globalization?
It's also been referred to as glocalization. I think it was Ritzer who wrote about that many years ago, where he looks at various processes of globalization, and one of them is glocalization, where you actually use local uniqueness and local produce, if you like, local elements, but exploit them globally. Exploit's not the right term. Market them globally, or use those as ways to express identity globally. And this is what I mean with imaginative community. So it's exploiting these processes of global technology, global financial system, global access to people, to media, and migration, actually to build a unique positioning, to stand out, if you like.
One of the examples you gave, which I found very interesting, is the Gulf states in Dubai, where you mentioned the Burj Al Arab and the Palm Island Jumeirah beach complex as being deeply rooted in Arab culture. How's that possible?
The Gulf states are interesting for some of the imaginative initiatives that they've taken. For instance, Palm Island I like, because the idea was we need to extend our coastline because that's prime beachfront property. Considering the climate and considering our success in tourism, that is a way to expand our economy and diversify from fossil fuels and oil exploitation. So when we're going to extend our coastline anyway, doing it in the shape of a date palm tree, which is widely seen as the symbol of life, the source of life in the region. So the date palm tree is on various coins in the Middle East. It's on flags. So it's often used as a symbol. So building this island in the shape of that tree makes complete sense, and it's this links back to this sense of identity and sense of heritage of their nomadic existence.
When all's said and done, Robert, isn't it just about financial marketing?
Well, that should be, because, you know, if you want international engagement, if you want people to admire you, if you want international engagement with the world and people understand who you are, you have to have local engagement. So marketing is fine as long as you're, when it is linked to selling a specific product to the target market. So we're City Nation Place here and other conferences, we're dealing with tourism marketing, which is fine. You're selling a tourism product, a tourist attraction, a tourist destination to a tourist market. And you're targeting the right consumer market in that case. Investment promotion is fine, which is actually more like sales than it is about marketing. You're actually doing personal selling to potential investors, which is fine. All of these things need to happen, but they're always linked to a specific product marketed to a specific target audience. And actually, if you only do that, it might actually be detrimental sometimes to your reputation. There's examples in this world where the places that are struggling with over-tourism, where pushing the marketing side too hard has actually been detrimental to their reputation. So in order to build this consistent reputation in the long term, you have to have an overarching strategy, and it can only be done if you have community, because it's all about collaboration. It's collaboration between government agencies, it's collaboration between government and private sector, it's collaboration between NGOs and civil society actors. And places like Estonia, another case that I really like, but it's a city level, the case of The Hague, that has positioned itself as a city of peace and justice, have been successful because they have been able to rally the community and all its stakeholders and all its parties and all its institutes and organizations behind those initiatives. And actually, when you're successful in doing that, it lifts that whole community away from political cycles, which is very often a problem when you're looking at reputation management for places. Look at what's happening with the Trump administration now. Now it's a counter narrative to the land of the free. So political cycles can sometimes be damaging or make it difficult to do this consistency, to build this consistency. But if a community is aware of its sense of purpose and supports it and rallies behind it, it actually makes it independent from those political cycles. Because a newly elected mayor in The Hague, you know, people in The Hague are saying this, it's not me saying this, they're saying if there is a newly elected mayor, he won't be able to get away with coming up with a new brand strategy, if you like, or a new positioning strategy, because everybody will say, hold on, we've got a perfectly fine strategy, we're the city of peace and justice, it's working, we're having all these initiatives, you can't take that away from us.
Robert, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.